Welcome to the cooking portion of the Brothers Chambers show, and I am the James of the Chambers Brothers. And the part that you saw before was my brother reading the chapter 1 of his book. Because this first chapter it takes place in Southeast Asia, I'm going to be teaching you how to prepare a simple Asian noodle soup. And it consists of shrimp as the protein, bok choy, which is a Chinese or an Asian cabbage. There are 4 different types. Some are a little bit more broad, some are a bit more wide. Scallions. And I only have small portions because I'm only making enough for 2 portions. It's also going to be a shrimp noodle, some scallions, some fish sauce, sesame oil, soy sauce, chicken stock. Okay, I'm going to start with some of the most time-consuming parts. I'm going to go ahead and drop my noodles into water that I already have boiling. Okay, these generally take anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes, so it doesn't take very long at all, especially if your water is already boiling, which it should be. Then I want to get my chicken stock into stock that I already have boiling. But I want to make a little bit more. I want to season my shrimp. I could just blanch it, but I want to season it so it gives it a little bit more flavor in the soup. So I'm going to season it with sesame oil, about a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons, a little bit of soy sauce, and fish sauce. Fish sauce is like a highly reduced anchovy. You can get it in Chinatown or any Asian market. So I'm just going to toss this in those items, season a little bit. I generally like to put it into the refrigerator, but it's not going to take very long at all, so I'm just going to set it to the side for a second. Give my hands a quick wash. Okay, now for the bok choy, there's 2 parts of it. The bottom part here, I'm going to go ahead and saute it, being that it's so broad that it can handle a certain amount of temperature. But for the leaves on the very top, I'm just going to use as a garnish at the very end, so that I'm going to separate that. What I'm going to do is just cut it on the chiffonade. The chiffonade is simply a roll, and then you can cut it as thin or as thick as you like. But for this purpose, I'm going to cut it about maybe a 1/2 inch. And I'm going to bring it down to the white part, and then I'm going to stop. I want the bottom part to be somewhat dramatic, so I'm not going to cut it into any small parts. So I'm going to cut it on a bias, an angle. And this is the part that I really like right here. This is what I'm going to saute. Those don't take very long. You want to get those out ahead. Being said this is getting close, I can actually turn it down, let it cook a little more, and I can turn down my chicken stock. This guy's the same way. You have the more broad part, which can handle a little bit more heat. I'm going to use the top part mostly for a garnish, but I will use a little bit of this in the saute process, which I'll show you. Same thing, cut it the same way I cut the bok choy. I want to cut it on a bias so I get these nice long pieces. Like such. That's separate. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the white part. It's a little more broad. It can handle a little bit more heat than the green part. What I'm going to do is add some heat to my pan, which is a little saute pan, a little bit more than a saute pan, just a little wok. Start the heat on it. Take a couple minutes, let that get warm. I'm just going to continue to check on my noodles, which are almost done, but they can take another minute or so. Chicken stock is starting to boil, so I can turn that down in a minute or so. You can check for doneness by the feel of the finger. This is really very close. Just by the feel of the finger. I'm going to give that another minute or so, then I'm just going to put it into a colander, let the hot water run off, and then I'm going to shock it in some cold water, let it sit for a bit. Just do a little rinse. Okay, now the wok should be coming up to temperature, so put a little oil in it. You can tell when the oil gets warm because it gets a little bit of a shimmer. It moves around very easy in the pan. I think I got just a little bit too much, so I'm going to pour a little bit off. One, just enough fat in the bottom of the pan so that nothing sticks, but it doesn't have to be a lot of oil because you want to get a nice, very hot pan sear. Turn on the fan. If I want to check the temperature of the pan, you just take one piece of shrimp. Now, as far as the shrimp goes, I wanted to leave the tail on it, but you can take the tails off of it. But I just like the way they look with the tail. It's a little bit more labor intensive while you're eating it because you have to actually use your hand, unless you're using chopsticks. Okay, you can hear that, so you know it's just about done. And I'm going to do this in 2 portions so I don't overcrowd the pan. If you overcrowd the pan, you're not going to get a nice sear. You're going to get more of a steam. What I want to try to do is I'm going to get just one side start to turn pink, and as it pinks, that's just letting me know that it's just about done. Then I'm going to flip it as much as I can. Maybe I'm not going to get them all flipped at one time. Then I'm going to start to add some scallion and a bok choy. Scallion's a little bit more broad, takes a lot more heat than scallion, so I'm going to use it first. And then I want to put this in 2 portions, so I'm not going to do it all. Then I'm going to use the white part of the scallion. See, it's starting to turn pink. It's almost done.